Good morning, my people, my people, my people, my people, my people, my people. Let's talk the business of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let's give them some work to do. Let's hurt Ralph Gonsalves. People, is this a rose? Does this look like a rose to you? I'm on the other side of the rose garden. I am on the western side of the rose garden today. The rose garden is so big I can select places where I can, and it is so convenient because you just get off the train, walk across the street, into the park and into the garden. So people, does this look like a rose to you? People, we have a lot of things to talk today, right? We have a lot of things to talk today. Ralph Gonsalves have mashed up the National Commercial Bank. Woo! I've never seen this rose before. I've been coming to this, I can't remember seeing this rose bush before. Ralph Gonsalves had been mashed up the National Commercial Bank. He bankrupt the St. Vincent and the Grenadines National Insurance Scheme. The Treasury is just a building. There is no money in the Treasury. And the evidence is clear. People, the evidence is near. The evidence is there for all to see, but you're not seeing. Because he has so much demonic forces running around St. Vincent and the Grenadines that they are blinding your eyes to the reality of what is happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is why they deactivated my main Facebook page. That is why they deactivated my main YouTube channel, because they know that I am the man with the eyes of the Most High, and I will bring up all of their stuff and alert the public as to what is happening in order and in sequence and put it into perspective. People, Ralph Gonsalves, in Ralph Gonsalves' first 6 years as Prime Minister, he bankrupt the National Commercial Bank, a productive institution, right? Now our National Bank is in the hands of Trinidad, of St. Lucian businessmen. How shameful is that? That a country's national financial institution is owned by a foreign entity, a foreign state, right? And not only not even the government of a foreign state, but a foreign private enterprise. How embarrassing is that, people? How embarrassing is that? Huh? Now, I am going to prove to you from evidence that are in the public eyes that you are unable to put together that Ralph Gonsalves is scrunting to pay the salary of civil and public servant. Right? But guess what? Remember, he said Mitchell was greedy when Mitchell tried to get the pension that he and his sons are now benefiting from for elected politician. Right? But guess what? He was threatening to cut public servant and civil servant wages. If you all get a cut in wage, all they shouldn't vex. All they shouldn't vex, that's what he said. In the middle of a pandemic and in the middle of the volcano. People, let us talk the business of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, right? They could deactivate my Facebook pages, but they can't stop me from talking. They can't stop me from reaching people. People, my people, my people, my people, my people, my people. It is important that you come together and that you listen to me and you start to take action. Because why else will Ralph Gonsalves invite the RSS to St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the middle of a volcano eruption, in the middle of a volcanic eruption, and they are bringing riot shields, riot gears, riot baton? Why would they do that in the middle of a volcanic eruption? The RSS personnel should have been walking with supplies, needed supplies, that police would have needed They should have been walking with needed supplies that would have helped the what I call it? The Special Service Unit carry out their responsibility in a more effective and efficient manner. Not riot scares, right? And the fact that the RSS came to St. Vincent riot gears means that Ralph Gonsalves was expecting riot in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let me turn it around so you can see me. Now people, listen to me carefully, right? Listen to me carefully. If you're going to hang out with me for the next couple minutes, right? I want you to share this video. Share this video on your page. Share this video on a friend page. Share this video in a group. Share it in a room. Just share this video and let us talk the business of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, right? They don't want me to speak because they don't want the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to be educated and informed about the foolishness that is going on. That is why they deactivated my page, my main Facebook page. That is why they deactivated my main YouTube channel. Because they don't want nobody to know what is happening. Listen to me, people. Okay, let me see. Natasha de Brung. Good morning, Natasha. How are you? Castle 5, you like flowers, eh? Ha! Nice, beautiful flowers, yes. I particularly like this rose. I have never seen this rose before. I am on the western side of the rose garden. You see that rose? Very small, very delicate, very beautiful. I have never seen this rose before, this type of rose before. This place having so many varieties of roses. For example, this is a rose, very small. It have the petals as a rose do, but it looks something like a hibiscus, but it is a rose. You see the bees are pollinating the flowers. Yes. Now people, let me see who's on. If you share this video, let me know that you share. Let me know where you're watching from. I know Natasha is watching from Canada. Michelle Fife, I think you're in New York or in St. Vincent. I can't remember. I think I see my brother from Bermuda, Wayne Seeley, have tuned in. I think I see Amo Lashley is watching also. Now people, this is what I really want to bring to your attention today, right? I thank you all for coming in. Well, you know, my main Facebook page has been deactivated after I brought the message last Wednesday. Wednesday night, they deactivated. They said they're doing it for my own protection because they suspect someone have hacked into my page. That's what they say. And because someone have hacked into my page, they're protecting me and they're protecting my page by taking it completely offline and denying me access to it. Right? That is what they have said. But people, let us start the business of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, right? Listen to me. Ralph Gonsalves have wrecked the National Treasury. He have bankrupted the National Commercial Bank in his first 7 years of Prime Minister. Our National Commercial Bank is now in the hands of St. Lucian private enterprises. Not the St. Lucian government. St. Lucian private enterprises. Right? He have been going into our national insurance scheme. And he have been taking out money willy-nilly. And there is no accounting as to how funds are removed and how funds are paid back to the St. Vincent and the Grenadines National Insurance Scheme. There's no accounting, right? Because they are not doing any accounting because they don't want the records to reflect the reality of the condition of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines National Insurance Scheme. You hear me? Now, When the soldiers from the Regional Security Service came to St. Vincent during the volcanic eruption, they didn't walk with water because they know our water supplies have been contaminated and we didn't have fresh water ready available, right? They didn't bring food supplies. They know that the crops were destroyed. The farmers, which are mostly conducted in the red and the orange zone, have already evacuated. So therefore, the farm products were stuck in the soil in the country, in the red and the orange zone. They didn't walk with water, they didn't walk with food stuff. They walk with shields, red shields, and baton. That means they were expecting some form of writing in our country instead of. So they came to protect Ralph Gonsalves' government. That's what they came for. Not to protect our people, but to protect Ralph Gonsalves' government. Right? And this is just a simple case. Now listen to what happened now. In the middle of an eruption, in the middle of a pandemic, when people were out of a job, when businesses went out of operation, when a lot of people were unemployed, because you know the unemployment situation in St. Vincent is about 54%. So added to the 54% unemployment in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, this is what Ralph Gonsalves do. Ralph Gonsalves put on a 1% on all imports that was coming into St. Vincent to pay. That's what he said he's going to use it for. To pay the seismic, the UWI seismic researchers. They were owing them some money. So he put on a 1% on all imports into St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So what you have seen happen, since the volcanic eruption started in December, Vincent has been paying more for food supply, more for building supply, more for petrol, more for clothing, because there's a 1% that went on all imports that were coming into St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Remember that. Bear that in mind. Some 5 years earlier, Ralph Gonsalves went to the parliament and he asked them for a 1% to take care of that expense with the UWI Seismic Resource Center. So therefore, some 5 or 6 years earlier, he had been receiving a 1% increase on import taxes and all imports into St. Vincent and the Grenadines to pay the people at the UWI who are monitoring our volcano. That money, that tax, was added to the import duties specifically for that purpose, for nothing else, specifically for that purpose. Right? So why in the hell did he have to come back in January of 2021 to ask for another 1% to do the same thing that he would have gotten a 1% increase on all imports to pay the same bill? Why is it so? It's not to say it was a one-time thing. It was a continual tax. So we see that he came to the government. He came to the people. He said, we need to pay the UWI Seismic Center the monies to ensure that they continue the monitoring of the volcano. 7 or so years ago, he get the money. What did he do with that money? He was not paying them. So now in January, he came back, he asked for another 1% tax on import. That means every Vincentian from a school child who was going to buy a tambourine ball from the tray lady at the school was paying an extra money for the tambourine ball. So if your father used to give you 25 cents to go to school and 10 cents for a tambourine ball, because sugar and everything else would have raised to offset the new tax that the 1% would have put on the vendors. Even your children at school, primary school children, would have had to now carried that 1% on their back. So remember, he did it in the middle of a pandemic. He did it in the middle of a volcanic eruption. I'm going to read your comments in a while. Don't worry. Let me just finish this thing. Next thing he did, last month, when everybody was worried about dying from the volcano, right? When he was talking about sending people off of St. Vincent in the cruise ships and so forth, when we were all distracted, when people would have want travel documents to get out of St. Vincent, Ralph Gonsalves raised the price of passports in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He said, this is what he said: this passport has features, security features, that the old passport didn't have. And it is important that we use these security features. It is not to say that people has been running in and out of different countries using St. Vincent passport that was fraudulently produced. Every illegal passport from St. Vincent and the Grenadines that are in the hands of people, they are not illegal passport. They are passport that was sold to those people by members of the Unity Labour Party. They have been in New York City, they have been selling passports in New York City to big shots who want passports, right? So it's not to say we have a problem with the security of our passports where they've been produced and sold. Nobody who wants to go to America wants a St. Vincent passport. You understand? Nobody who wants to do anything unless it's a criminal who's trying to cover his tracks. Because St. Vincent really did nothing to say, a Barbadian passport, a Trinidadian passport, an Antiguan passport is more important than a St. Vincent passport. So what he's trying to do, he's trying to milk Vincent out of money that we don't have. 45% of the population is unemployed. Due to the pandemic and the eruption, another 25% of the population becomes unemployed. Yet, he is raising all of these things. Passports were raised last month, I think it was last month. The price, because he expected people to be traveling out of St. Vincent in droves. And if you want to leave St. Vincent, you have to get your passport. You understand? So he expected an upsurge. So that is why he raised the passport. Unconscionable. That is what he is. Unconscionable. Last week, you know what he did? He raised the price of cooking gas. Now, every family in St. Vincent who has a gas stove, and we know most of the household in St. Vincent have a gas stove because I don't think they sell kerosene oil anymore. So people who have kerosene oil, and like some people have the coal pot still that they use periodically. But it seems like everybody in St. Vincent have a gas stove. So therefore, he's now taxing. He have raised the price on gas. And remember, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the main seller of cooking gas where they get some Petrocarib, right? The main seller of cooking gas. So they are doing things to make a profit. For example, here in the United States, they have changed the ID in every state, right? They have the regular state ID and now they have what they call the real ID. This real ID having chip So that if a police car driving by you, right, they can know who you are. They can know everything about you because the real ID having a chip that communicates with other instruments. And most people don't know that, right? So if a police, listen to me, now the American government has increased the technology and have offered this real ID to the community. Did they raise the price? No. The price of the IDs is still the same. It is highly technological. It makes it efficient for them. But the price of the IDs are still the same. You have to remember, there are certain services that the government provide to the people without expecting to make a profit from it. And one of those services are the providing of travel and identification documents, right? They don't expect to make a profit from it. What it knows is that if they upgrade their passport, it's going to make their borders more secure. And when these borders are secure, it means less undesired people are given easy access to their borders, to utilize their facilities, to utilize their resources, right? So in upgrading the passport, upgrading the IDs, it helped the government in the long run to save money off of people who would normally sneak in and out with fraudulent passports of their countries. Utilize the resources, right? And then cause the government to spend more money on healthcare, on social service, on education. Because what you see, all of these people are coming in. When they get sick, they go into the hospital, they have to treat them, right? When the children are born, they have to send them to school. So when there are certain things that the government is not expected to make a return on, the price on this product is there to ensure that the people don't take these services for granted. Don't take the services for granted, like the passport. You buy a passport, and because you paid, let me say, you may pay $100 for the passport, you're going to hold on to the passport, because if you lost it, it's going to take you 5 months and an extra $100 to get a new passport. But if they were giving you the passport just like that, you would not have taken care of it because it was free. And when you lost it, you can go back and get another one. So there are some things, some services that the government is not expected to make a profit on, right? Healthcare is another one. Government is not expected to earn a profit from healthcare because it is the government's responsibility to ensure that it keeps its citizens healthy. And when those citizens experience ill health, they have an affordable means of accessing the health care that is needed to restore them to health so that they can come back into the workforce and be productive, right? That is why government like Canada, although healthcare is expensive in Canada, the government in Canada have insurance for their citizens, so their citizens can go to the health care facilities, receive the needed treatment and medication that they want without worrying about the exorbitant price that they would have to pay normally, right? So there are things, there are services that government provides, and if they are not providing these services, they put things in place to reduce the cost to their citizens. Not in St. Vincent. Ralph Gonsalves is running the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines like a Marby shop, right? Where he expects to make a profit off of every service that the government offers. You understand? That's how he's running St. Vincent and the Grenadines, like a Marby shop. That's not how you run a government. People, I really have to switch the camera to show you this rose. I like this. My God, look at that. I like this rose, these white roses. They're nice. I'm yet to see a black rose. La Negro de Rosa. Right? So people, that is proof, that is evidence. That is evidence that Ralph Gonsalves, he had bankrupted the national security, the National Commercial Bank in his first 7 years. He is the black widow. You call him the destructive prime minister. Right? He bankrupted the National Commercial Bank in his first 7 years in office as prime minister. After he bankrupted the National Commercial Bank, he started draining the National Insurance Scheme. The National Insurance Scheme have not had an audit since the National Commercial Bank was sold, because that now becomes Ralph Gonsalves' playground. So they have not have an audit. So although monies are going into the National Insurance Scheme every month from the workers, right? We don't know the financial condition of the National Insurance Scheme, right? Because they have not had an audit since the National Commercial Bank went out of government, went out of business, was bankrupt and was sold. People, trust me, that is why they deactivated my accounts. Because they know that I always, hey, now I have so much thing to talk about, but I don't want the message to be lost. That is why I had to bring them piece by piece. You understand? So this is what's happening. Ralph Gonsalves, in the past, from December, well, let us say January, because the volcano started erupting in December, but they bring the bill to the House in February for the 1%. So between February, March, April, May, in 4 months, Ralph Gonsalves, he have added a 1% general on all imports. That means every Vincentian, from the smallest school child who buys a tambram ball at the tray in front of their school, or who buy a pallet or a popsicle from the tuck shop, had to pay that 1% increase that he gets in February. Right? Last month, in April, just after this volcano, volcano moved from effusive to explosive eruption, Ralph Gonsalves increased the price on the passport because he expected a lot of people to be rushing out to St. Vincent. That is why he brought the 3 cruise ships. So he could force the vaccine on people, and also that they would have a rush for travel documents to get out of the country. And then they'll be confronted with the increased price of passport, so he would be able to get to pay. Civil and public servant. And now he raised cooking gas. Remember, in April, he says, with the pandemic and with the volcano, if the public and civil servant get a little short pay, they have to understand. You understand? After 20 years, you are ill-equipped to deal with a volcanic eruption. The volcano is there. The volcano is there even before we were born. So we know that there's a potential for eruption, but they don't think of that far. After 20-something years, he as Prime Minister, he can't deal with a little volcanic eruption. You understand? Now he's forcing the people out of the shelter, sending them home to an inhabitable community to live, because he wants to take the monies, the $3 million that he gets from the United States government. Hey now, he started the rumor that the United States government is going to give them $100 million, thinking that he would have influenced the amount of money they were going to get. Right? And have everybody believe in that. But the United States government only gave them $3 million because they know that Ralph Gonsalves cannot be trusted to utilize the monies as they ought to be utilized. They know that. That's why they only give them $3 million. The United Kingdom, imagine it now, England, Wales, and Southern Ireland, 3 nations combined. The United Kingdom gives St. Vincent and the Grenadines £700,000, just over $1 million. Easy. Listen to me. Grenada and Dominica gave St. Vincent the equivalent of what the United Kingdom give to St. Vincent, because the United Kingdom government has no confidence in the St. Vincent and the Grenadines government under the leadership of Shitstain to do what is right and to spend the money on what is needed. You understand? And he's begging, he's still hung in the British High Commission in Barbados, telling them must tell Britain get them more. But Britain is not going to give them any more, because Britain is not intimidated by him, and they don't have any sympathy for him and for us neither. So he's not getting any more. Right? That is what he's doing. Poor fella. Poor fella. He's stealing an election. He wants to be prime minister. He is incompetent and incapable of doing the job. And guess what? He is going to lock down the country. He's going to stay in power under all circumstances. It's only when, let me tell you something, he will always make sure that the police are paid for us. Why? Because he wants to keep and maintain the services of the police, to keep you all in check, to keep you all under control. He would always make sure that the police are paid for us. And this is just the simple truth. Let me tell you, Shitstain is in big trouble. He is in big, big trouble, people. Let me see what he had to say now. Daryl Kid. So that we should charge the UWI team for any use of our data. No, Daryl Kidd, you have to remember, all the data that is collected is the UWI own. All of the instruments on St. Vincent and the Grenadines belongs to the UWI. So all of the data that is collected belongs to the UWI. It's not St. Vincent data, right? The volcano is our zone, it's our problem. But all of the monitoring equipment, even those new monitoring equipment that was put in, belongs to the UWI, right? They own it on our soil, but all of the monitoring equipment is, so all of the data is the UWI's data. Well, you have to remember, Daryl Kidd, you know that they must be charged, right? You have to remember that when Ralph Gonsalves get the first 1%, about 6 or 7 years ago, right? What he did, he paid off the expenses, and that 1% was supposed to be used as a continual payment to ensure that we doesn't fall back into that trap again, right? But as we should say, what you expect him to do? He paid it off with the first installment, and he stopped paying. So now, when the volcano erupted, it started erupting in December, and he wanted the staff to come to St. Vincent. They came to St. Vincent. Forced demanded, listen to me, we don't mind, our job is to monitor the volcano in the Eastern Caribbean, right? And we don't mind doing our job. But we cannot facilitate St. Vincent at this time, because St. Vincent had an outstanding amount of money, and we don't have the money to really deal with St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So if he was a good manager of the resources, if he was a loyal steward, what he would have done, he would have used the taxes for the purpose of which they were collected every month, and pay the UWI the monies that is owed to the UWI on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis. But he's not a good manager. He's not a good steward. He's a dishonest man. So what he do? He go to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for money to pay the UWI. He paid them once, and that was it. He started using money for his own business. Whatever he used it for, I don't know. Right? So that is what happened in that case. So now he had to come back to pay off the surplus for the years that he didn't pay. And now he had to try to keep updated. So that is why the UWI was able to bring in new instruments to check the gas level, the amount of earthquakes, and put in new instruments because they were paid off, they were paid up, and now they could have invested those monies that they would have had to put in long time to ensure that we were properly monitored. So the reason why we were not properly monitored, that is why it was hikers. I think it was Lava Man, the same Lava Man who they arrested. It was Lava Man who went up to the volcano and saw the new dome building and brought it to the attention of the authorities, right? All of those guys that hiking back and forth from Chateau and going back and forth from Chateau to Georgetown with their marijuana business, they saw it too, but they didn't care about what happening there. They were doing their business, because for those guys, the less traffic you have in that area, it is better for them, right? It is better for their business. So they didn't report it. It is the same Lava Man who they arrested, who went up to the volcano, saw the new growth of the dome, and reported it, because the seismic center in the UWI seismic center has been scarcely monitoring our volcano because they wasn't being paid, and therefore they were not upgrading the instruments, right? They were not replacing broken instrument and upgrading old instrument. So therefore, even though the volcano was erupting for quite a while before it was discovered, it is because of the same Lava Man, right, who reported it, that they knew that there was actually a eruption in process, an effusive eruption in process. And that is because Ralph Gonsalves had been misappropriating the monies that should be going to the UWI Center, that every Vincent had been paying tax for the past 7 or 8 years, thinking that the UWI is being paid and they are properly monitoring our volcano. Listen to me. The UWI will monitor your volcano based on the input that you give them. They are not going to take the monies that the Dominican government has faithfully contributed. That is why in Dominica, there are permanent staff from the UWI on the island of Dominica monitoring the Dominica volcanoes. And I say volcanoes because of Dominica have more than one volcanoes. That is why there are people, permanent staff in Montserrat, that are monitoring the Montserrat volcano, because the Dominicans are keeping up to date with their payments to the UWI. The Monstratians are keeping up to date with their payments of the UWI. So St. Vincent was not keeping up to date with their payments, although we have an observatory at Belmont in Rose Hall. It is really left abandoned because they have no one there. They have no one there. No one with any real experiences there to monitor our volcano. And our volcano is more active and in a more critical state and in a more critical location than that of Dominica. Because Dominica volcano is in a remote part of the country. Very, very remote. Right? Nobody lives in that area. But they are paying to ensure that those volcanoes are being monitored. And there are people who are on the island of Dominica who are constantly monitoring the equipment in Dominica. When an equipment go bad, there's someone to fix it. When an equipment is broken, there's someone to replace it. Why? Because the Dominican government have been paying their dues to the UWI Seismic Center. Not St. Vincent and the Grenadines, right, Mr. Darrell? Vincent don't remember nothing. Miss Laidlaw, Oliver Laidlaw. Anybody else have anything? Facts. Natasha D. Brown. Every year we want to raise taxes in a country that has extreme poverty, sucking the life out of Vincent. You're right, Natasha. They cannot be afford to be raising taxes on product like this. Remember, VAT went up recently also. The prices on VAT went up. And some of those essential products that were not VATed are now VATed. So we see there's also things that we leave out. Oliver Laidlaw, SVG passport valued nothing. Even Haiti passport have more value than SVG passport. You're right. You are right. Because if you have a Haiti passport now, you can get into America. Your visa coming easy, and you're getting a 6 months moratorium to stay in America right now as you speak. Once you go to the embassy with a Haitian passport, you get a visa and you can stay up to 6 months. No question asked, and you can work. And you can work also. So you're right. You are right, Mr. Oliver Laidlaw. The Haitian passport is more valuable than ours. Daryl R. Kidd. Well, the new 1% is to collect from the monies Vincent got for assistance during these entire crisis. Was he not the one who said spending money and not food? Mr. Laidlaw, and you see the thing is it? No, here's the problem, right? I'll just piggyback on what you have just said. We just came out of the COVID-19 pandemic. St. Vincent was given a lot of money from the United Nations, from the United Kingdom and the United States to deal with the pandemic that they created, right? Kamala Gonsalves came and said he spent $58 million between March of 2020 and December of 2020. Right? That is equivalent to at least $400,000 EC to each Vincentian. EC or US? It's US for each Vincentian. Because we only have about 110,000 people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. $58 million is a lot of money, right? So why couldn't they divert some of the money from the pandemic and do up the books as they always do and pay the UWI? No, they want to pressure Vincentians. Right? Daryl Arcade is asking, do you know there is technology that can transmit sound to a receiver without the need of a battery and can be planted within pages? I suspect that is true, Daryl. Chancery Clouden is telling me to speak. Mr. Laidlaw again, you're saying, not even the Minister of Health in SVG have access to proper health care. What a shame. Remember what happened to Louise Mitchell the other day. Louise Mitchell just got a little cyst. It wasn't malignant. It wasn't affecting her spine. And Louise Gonsalves had a little cyst the other day on her back. They lie and say it affected her spine. Eloise don't say she ain't going in there. She ain't doing nothing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ralph Gonsalves come and lie to the public because he want to justify his wife leaving St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But if you remember, I brought to your attention the other day. In Nigeria, Minister of Government went to England for medical service. The Nigerians in England went to his hotel room, pull him out of his hotel room, beat him, and throw him to the airport and send him back to Nigeria. He said, your responsibility is to ensure that the Nigerians, including yourself, have the appropriate medical facilities and professional to take care of these medical conditions. The average Nigerian cannot come to England, so you are not receiving service here. He went back to Nigeria on a plane without getting the medical attention he went for, because it is their responsibility to ensure that every citizen who vote them have access to the same medical care that they have. So if Ralph Gonsalves is flying to Cuba to do any procedure, if Louis Gonsalves is flying to Cuba for rehabilitation, and the average Vincent can't go to Cuba for the same thing, they're not supposed to go. They are supposed to be using the same service that they provide for the citizen. People, if I'm lying, tell me. Natasha, everything the Prem touch destroys. He's a devil. He's more than the devil. He's a child of Lucifer. Oliver Laidlaw say he got that right. Chancery Clouden. I don't know Chancery Clouden. I don't know why the hell the Vincent committee don't overthrow the government. You see, there's a lot of victims in Simpson and Grenadines, people with victim mentality, and they cannot raise up and do what is in their best interest, right? So that is one of the things you have to consider also. So now, people, if you don't have anything to say, Daryl, kid, you love the thing. I guess you love what the Nigerian did. That is how we're supposed to treat them. If they have medical problems and they can't deal with it in some reason. Okay, for example, there's a little girl from Camden Park by the name of Anya. Just graduated Bethel High School about 7 years ago. This little girl, one of the most beautiful, friendly girl you can have. And no, there's no one who had any bad thing to say about this girl. She came up with kidney problem, needed dialysis. Her parents were too poor to handle dialysis. Right? She couldn't afford dialysis because her parents were too poor. This little 19-year-old girl had to stay in her home and suffer. Suffer and die. Could you imagine this 19-year-old girl have to make up her mind? I'm going to die because I'm too poor to live. That is what she was saying. I'm going to die because I'm too poor to live. Because the government have not provided the resources so that people like Anya could live. Right? Look at those people who are in St. Vincent and Grenadines, who are starting GoFundMe so that they could just buy medication for their cancer. They can't afford to buy medication and they can't bear the pain, so they have to now go to GoFundMe so that they can get medication to deal with the cancer pain. Look at so many people who have came down with kidney problems and just had to die because they cannot afford it. But the Prime Minister's wife, Shitstain's wife, right, Miss Shitstain, get a little cyst in her back, that she could have done a surgery in a doctor's office to remove the cyst. But she refused to do a surgery in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No medical practitioner in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is going to touch her. So Shitstain lied to the people and said that she has a cyst growing on her spinal cord. It was a simple problem, a simple procedure. Even I could have done that procedure. You understand? Because all a cyst is a collection of fat tissues that is growing somewhere where it's not supposed to be growing. That cyst that Eloise had was nowhere near her. It was in her back, but it was not attached to her spinal cord. Right? And even if it is attached to a spinal cord, it is just a matter of going in and cutting the cyst and the growth on the spinal cord, just scraping it off. It was not And it's a spinal intrusive operation. But she's determined that she is not doing any surgery in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and no doctor, no matter how good you are, who's practicing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is going to put their hands on her. And that is just a simple fact. My people, my name is Allan Palmer, St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son. I am thanking the Most High for his knowledge, his understanding, and his wisdom. And I thank the Most High for the opportunity to share that knowledge, that understanding, and wisdom with you, my people. People, share this video if you think the information in this video is important. If you think this information should get out to your brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I want you to share this video. Share it on a page. Share it on a friend page. Share it on a group. Share it. Let me go with this song. Partying song. Thanks to Michelle Andrews, who sung the alarm. She warned the entire country that Ralph is a raper man. A habitual rapist with a stellar history. Instead of first prosecution, they give him a rape rally. He called him shit stain. Shit stain, shit stain. We calling the PM out of his name. We call him shit stain. Shit stain. Everything he touched must be washed with rain. We call him shit stain, shit stain, shit stain, shit stain. We calling the PM out of his name. We call him shit stain, shit stain. Everything he touched must be washed with rain, 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 rain. Shit stain.